Hi, PowerShell community, and welcome our guest today, James O'Neill from the United Kingdom. He's one of the 40+ speakers of the upcoming PowerShell Conference Europe, which takes place in the beautiful country of Austria. James, thank you very much for your time. Would you please introduce yourself to the community so we get a better idea of who you are and what you do?
Okay, so I'm normally described as a PowerShell veteran. I've been doing it since the start. When it first arrived in about 2007, I was working as an evangelist for Microsoft. So I evangelized PowerShell for Microsoft, and then I've been out of Microsoft about 10, 11 years now, and now work as a freelance, but I've had a couple of other interesting jobs along the way. So I've got two interesting organisations on my CV. One's Microsoft, the other is the Mercedes Formula One team. So I spent some time working for them and got blamed if people like Lewis Hamilton didn't get their email. So that's my background. I have been automating things since before PowerShell, but I tend to find the jobs that I'm called into are things where something needs to be automated, and it's kind of get James. He can automate all the things. So that's my background.
Okay, so let's talk about your sessions at the PowerShell conference. What I saw on the schedule, you have two sessions.
I do.
One is management-readable format, working with ImportExcel Module.
Yeah.
And Microsoft Graph++, the missing module for working with Graph APIs.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about your session and why should the attendees visit your sessions?
Okay, so the management readable format is a kind of a running joke that we do a lot of stuff in PowerShell, and we generate a lot of output that's tabular, and the way that people read that data usually is in Excel. So back when I was working for Mercedes, somebody I knew from my time at Microsoft, a guy called Doug Fink, had a module called ImportExcel, and I said, "Hey, Doug, remember me?" And oh yeah, we remember each other. I've got a bunch of things that could be added to this module of yours, particularly on the export side. Doug had found a library that will read Excel, and was primarily interested in reading at that stage. I was primarily interested in exporting, and so Doug had an export part of it, and I then came along and enhanced it and added things. And Doug likes to say that it's got more of my code than his in it, but it's his idea, so we kind of shared the development on it. And it'll do all manner of things. So what I've been doing with my current client, I've been working with Octopus Deploy, and we go and get a load of information from the Octopus API, and then the best way to review it is just to export it to Excel. And not just to export it, because it's not just a kind of a table in Excel, but we'll do things like we'll do conditional formatting. So when a step's failed, it shows up in red on your Excel spreadsheet. Or we can chart stuff, and we can use all the functionality of Excel, but it's how management tend to see things. So it's a great way of outputting stuff. It's also quite a useful way of importing stuff, because you can give something to somebody and say, here is a template, fill this template in Excel and tell me how you want these virtual machines set up. And they come back and they say, I want these 10 virtual machines, and here it all is in the spreadsheet. And you then just say, right, okay, I'll read that spreadsheet with ImportExcel, and then I've got some PowerShell commands that will build those virtual machines, and I build them to order. And the way I take the order is an Excel spreadsheet. And of course, people will send those Excel spreadsheets around anyway. If you build them right in the first place, it's really easy to just say, here you go, here's an Excel spreadsheet, fill it in, I'll build the VMs for you, and it all happens by magic. Not magic, PowerShell, but
PowerShell magic.
What's the Arthur C. Clarke quote about any sufficiently advanced scripting is indistinguishable from magic? Something like that. So that was that one. And the Microsoft Graph one, that's a project that's been going for 3 years, I think now. I originally needed to send messages into Teams, and I looked at the API for doing Teams, and it's the Graph API. But Graph is this great sprawling API that talks to all sorts of bits all over Microsoft 365. So it covers everything from email to creating user accounts, to groups, to assigning licenses, and it's a vast raft of things all called from one big REST API. Now, there are some commandlets out there to work with this REST API. But what's happened with those commandlets is they've been auto-generated. So someone's taken, I think everybody still calls them Swagger files, but they're probably called OpenAPI files. But yeah, someone's taken the Swagger file, run it through a code generator, and produced some output. But none of those commands do the normal PowerShell things. So they don't do tab completion. They don't have what-if support.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, because they're not written as with the commandlet binding thing at the top of them, the last version of the ones I checked will allow you to write what if and then ignore the parameter, which is super dangerous. So you go, oh, delete user minus what if. Oh no, I've just deleted the user. So they were not very PowerShelly. They weren't very efficient, and I'd written all this stuff starting from Teams and fanning out from there. And I said, well, okay, what if I repurposed my stuff that was properly PowerShelly, but generated the same objects that they generate the and use the existing code as a basis for this. So the module got renamed to Graph++. It basically extends what's already published by the Graph team, but makes it a much better PowerShell experience.
Okay.
And there's a session that people have I did for the European conference a couple of years ago that people have been very kind about, called How to Be a Parameter Ninja. And a lot of the stuff that's in that Parameter Ninja talk, which you can still find on YouTube, gets incorporated into making these things properly PowerShelly. So that's a lot of it is, you know, I did a demo of it for some people in the States, and I basically just went, let's go and add a user to a group, and the fact that I could tab complete group names, people just went, what? You can tab complete group name? Well, why would you not expect that? And then, you know, go and do something else, and I forget what it was. It was changing. I think it was changing somebody's manager, and again, tab complete the manager, and
okay,
everything tab complete. And it's the same when I'm doing stuff in Octopus Deploy. You know, I've written some extra scripts for Octopus, and everything tab completes. So you want to get a project from Octopus, and you type get Octopus project, tab, and it goes, oh, you want a project? Okay, here are your projects. I kind of expect stuff to work like that. So when a piece of Microsoft produces something like these original commandlets for Graph, I give them quite a hard time because they're not properly PowerShelly. And, you know, I can be a bit of a big mouth sometimes, but really it's trying to get that really good user experience out of the commands. Okay. So that's what that module is trying to do. Quite a long answer, but
it's okay. But sounds really interesting. James, the PowerShell conference will take place in Austria. Yeah. Will it be your first visit in Austria?
My first visit to Austria for about 25 years.
25 years, okay.
Yeah, possibly longer than that actually. But I've been to Austria. I remember going to Innsbruck and standing on the ski jump during the summer.
Okay,
quite interesting. A ski jump with no snow. But but I've never actually been to Vienna before, so Vienna will be new for me. And I'm of that age where, you know, the Ultravox song sticks in my mind about Vienna. So you'll find Brits of a certain age making a joke about Vienna, and it means nothing to me because of the Ultravox song. But
when you think about Austria, what is typically, in your opinion, for Austria?
Oh dear. You see now, again, going back to working for Mercedes, I was working for an Austrian there. In fact, I was working for two Austrians. Toto Wolff was one, and Toto, everybody notices, sounds like your most famous export in Austria, a certain Mr. Schwarzenegger. But also Niki Lauda was the other one that I worked for. And so I don't know. When I think of Austria, I tend to kind of associate it with those people. So a couple of motor racing people and one rather famous actor. And of course, I was saying about being on the ski jump. I tend to think of Austria and alpine skiing as well. So I don't ski, but I watch skiing. So
you watch, okay.
So yeah, and just being funnily enough, Britain just won a gold in the Paralympic skiing. For severely visually impaired skiers, and you think, how brave must you be to do downhill skiing in the first place, and then to do it when you can't see properly and you're relying on following a guide.
That's amazing.
And we can win the kind of stupidly brave version of downhill skiing for people who can't even see. We can win, but downhill skiing for normal people, no, we've got no chance.
So we have now a very serious question. We already heard that you work for Mercedes. What I've seen on your Twitter description that you're a Formula One fan.
Yeah.
So now we have a serious topic. Season 2021.
Oh.
Hamilton or Verstappen? And what is your opinion on the last race?
Oh dear. Well, I've said a lot on Twitter. I was I think, to be deadly serious for a moment, if you're a Verstappen fan, you'll have one view, and if you're a Hamilton fan, you'll have another view. I looked at watching it live. I said the race had to finish under the safety car, which would have meant Hamilton won the championship. What the race director did fell outside the rules, and the result shouldn't have been allowed to stand. Mercedes appealed the result. They then withdrew their appeal, and by withdrawing their appeal, although the result is arguable, that's the one that goes down in the record books. By not keeping the argument going and saying we need to draw a line under this, I think they did the right thing sporting wise, but people will always argue, and it's a bit sad for Max, because he will always have people saying, oh yes, but against that. So yeah, but the problem is that, if Mercedes had gone to court and they'd said, okay, the result should have been declared as they stood one lap earlier, you would have had a court then awarding the championship to Hamilton. And people would have gone, oh yes, but, and it would have still had that little asterisk against it. He didn't really win it. He only got it in court. And so once the screw up had been made, neither driver was going to get the a totally happy answer out of it. So it's one of those things. And I can't think of an instance in any sport where the officials in charge have made such a colossal error. It's unprecedented is a word that gets used way too much, but I can't think of a precedent for it. I can't think of it's a bit like in Britain, we still remember the Madonna hand of God goal, where he punched the ball into the net, he didn't head it, and that was in 1986, 86 would have been a World Cup, wouldn't it? 1986 World Cup. So that's what, 36 years ago this summer. So, that's kind of how it gets remembered. And again, although that shouldn't have been a goal, that was still, that was the result. That was what the record books say. So the record books say it was a goal. So it'll be like that forever, sadly.
Yeah. But it was really the last years the Formula One was very boring. So every time Hamilton was to win, of course he deserves it. He was the best driver, but it was boring the last year. So the last years before, but last year it was really exciting.
Yeah,
the end
and
was
it was
shitty. But it was from a fan without any partial from Lewis or Max. It was really interesting last year.
Yeah, and the great thing was right until that very last lap, didn't know who was going to be champion.
Yeah.
And that was the amazing thing. Max Max won some great races. Lewis won some great races. We had other, like the Belgian race that was called the result, even though they never actually raced. And there were all sorts of things, and the two big accidents that they had. And again, you look at the I was actually at Silverstone, so I saw I wasn't at the corner where they came together at Silverstone. I was actually on the start finish straight, and so I could see towards the end of the race, I could see the pit boards and the tire, the gaps coming down. I thought the wind's actually on for Lewis here, and the crowd went absolutely crazy, and people complained about Max. Protocol said Max had to go off for a check in the hospital. Now, he didn't need any treatment, but he had to go to the hospital. And Lewis was responded to the crowd, and he said, "Oh, didn't they tell Lewis that Max was in the hospital and he should, tone it down a bit?" But no, they didn't. They told Lewis that Max was okay, and he got out of the car by himself, and he'd seen the doctor, and he was fine. And the crowd just went absolutely berserk. It was like, 100,000 people all cheering for Lewis. But yeah, people will argue about that accident for a long time. If you're a Lewis fan, it was all Max's fault.
Of course.
and so you can't. It's because I'm not neutral. It's very hard for me to talk about it neutrally.
Okay.
Because I'm not neutral, and it's far easier to say, I'm approaching this from the point of view of somebody who did work for Mercedes, who was, I come from a house of Lewis fans, and so it's very difficult to say, oh yeah, Lewis got that one wrong, but yeah, it was a good season.
Okay, I don't want to open this round again. So keep it. maybe this season it will be different.
Well, this season's we're gonna have a whole bunch of other. We've got a whole bunch of unknowns for this season, which should make it exciting.
The new cars and everything.
New cars, different drivers in different cars. There should be a chance to see some unfamiliar faces on the podium.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. James, the last question for today. What is your favorite PowerShell commandlet and your favorite PowerShell module?
Oh, crumbs. Favorite module is probably ImportExcel because of contributing to it. There's a couple of others that I've been involved with that I like a lot, but that's probably the main one. Favorite individual commandlet. It would be very boring if I said ImportExcel because that's my session, and I've just. But of the built-in ones, I mean, the ones that I use most has got to be format table, but that's quite a boring command. I do like some of the stuff in Azure that you can just say from a single command. Oh, I've got a VM running. Just go find this VM and shut it down.
Okay.
So that some of those things are quite useful, but It's really hard to single one out.
That's fine. That's okay. James, thank you very much for your time. Any last words to the PowerShell community?
Be in Vienna.
Okay, and get your ticket and be in Vienna.
Go. The previous European conferences have been really great. I thoroughly recommend them. If you're in any doubt about going, just stop sitting on the fence. Just book it and go.
Yeah. Okay. So get your tickets.
Yeah.
Thanks again. Thanks for your time, and see you in June in Vienna. Bye-bye.
Cool. Bye.